kiss and hug me. Come on, strong, go on and love me. Let's not waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say if you want to be more than friends.
Welcome, everyone, to another Social Web Cafe interview. And today we have Don Sturgill. And I've only recently had the blessing of getting to know Don, and I like what I've gotten to know. So welcome, Don.
Thank you, Debbie, and the feeling is mutual. It's a pleasure getting to meet you and Michael.
Thank you so much. I always learn so much whenever we chat, or even what you post on Google+, and you have such wisdom in your interpretation of the life around you.
Well, that's my specialty, Deb. Not necessarily wisdom, but a love of wisdom. You know, that's where the word philosophy comes from. Philosophy, love of wisdom. So I don't lay any claim on having any wisdom, really, but I love wisdom and I love seeking it.
Now, would you say that you spend most of your time? Okay, if you're going to break down the time as far as wisdom acquisition, that just doesn't go together. But would you say a lot of it is in book reading, or is it observing people, or is there kind of a balance between the two?
Well, Deb, that's one of those things that people say is a good question, you know. But here's the thing. The first response, the one that really comes to mind, is Apostle Paul in Christian scriptures says, "Pray without ceasing." Pray without ceasing. And you know, you look at that and you go, how in the world can you pray without ceasing? I mean, I have a job to do, of work, there's people, there's children to feed. How can I pray without ceasing? But it's more, I think, of an attitude. So my approach to life, and I try to remember, is okay. Here's the thing. Now you open this can of worms. Okay.
So all right. I take responsibility.
Here we go. My view of life is that it's a school. So the reason we're here, in my opinion, is to learn. We're here to learn, and learning's what it's all about. So as I can remember that in every life situation, then I cease looking at things as, are they good or bad? Are they right or wrong? Are they in my favor or not in my favor? You know, all that kind of stuff. And I can approach things more of, okay, what can I learn here? What's there to learn here? And what I often find is that when I look for the lesson, then I can get through it faster, I guess. Things tend to move on along for me. But if I get stuck trying to fight something, then sometimes I get stuck there trying to fight whatever it is.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot, because sometimes I'll be like, how can that person be doing it that way? Not even about right or wrong. I try to always say, okay, what's the positive? But I like your approach, because I think it takes it even further than saying what's the positive and negative in this. Because otherwise you can say, how can that person do something that seems like it's negative? But what you're saying is, what can I learn from this situation?
What can you learn? There is the old story, the classic old story, is the one of the guy who had this beautiful horse, this beautiful stallion. It was the pride of, you know, the whole region. People would come to see this stallion. And, you know, one day the stallion jumped the fence and ran off. So all the neighbors came to this old man and they said, you know, old man, how unfortunate, how horrible, your beautiful horse is gone, and now you've lost him and you've lost all the value. And the old man says, well, you know, I don't know if it was good or bad. All I know is I had a horse and now I don't. So then, right? So then the old man's son went looking for the horse and found the horse and tried to bring the horse back, but the horse trampled the old man's son, broke his leg. So, you know, people came and said, you know, now you're really in trouble, old man, because now your only son has a broken leg and your horse is still gone and life is, you know, horrible. And the old guy says, well, I don't know. You know, all I know is my son has a broken leg and the horse is gone. So, and then there was a war. and all the young men were taken off to war except for the old man's son because he couldn't go. And they all came and said, how fortunate you are. So, that's the way the crowd goes, right? Everything is all in the old man, I think, had a good perspective. I don't know. Here's what I know. And, the end of the story, I think, to get it right, is the horse came back and brought a bunch of other beautiful horses with it. So in the end, the old man was, better off than when they started telling him how poorly he was doing. So, life is a lesson. And I think sometimes, Deb, sometimes I sit and I look at myself and, hey, I could complain about a lot of things, I guess we could all find something to complain about. But the truth is, I'm really fortunate. And I prefer to remember that and to look for the lessons in life. So, because I hate to be flippant about it, because there are people in this world right now who are starving, who are miserable, who are being persecuted. There's a lot of bad things going on right now, even as we are speaking. And so I catch myself sometimes just whining over things that are ridiculous.
That's interesting. And, that's actually, I'm not saying you whine over things that are ridiculous, but the acknowledgement of that, to be able to say, this is, and I've done that. I'll come say something to Michael, my husband, and it's like, that's probably really petty, isn't it? There are bigger issues in the world than I stubbed my toe. Yeah.
There was a video making the rounds, I'm sure it's still out there now, long ago, that my son loves to bring this one up. That's a first world problem, When we have something like, Burger King is closed. Well, that's a first world problem. That's not a third world problem,
Oh, I get it. I was thinking first world as in like the primary, but I get it. Okay,
it's for people in, yeah. And I don't know, we could go on and on about that. And you look at, I don't know, it's quite I started a series called The Rich Man and Me. And I think we spoke about that before, and it really starts back, I was born in the poorest section of America, in Appalachia, and the Appalachian Mountains, and southeastern Kentucky. So, back there, like the people that settled that region, a lot of them came there because they didn't want a lot of attention. They went into this old hilly country and they grew their own food, and they, made moonshine and did whatever they could to get by. Right. But they were sitting on an unbelievably rich deposit of coal. So, the rich people discovered that. Knew that was the case, so they sent these guys down into that region to go out to these old homesteaders and country folks and say, hey, you have your land and that's wonderful, but there's some rock underneath the land that we'd like to get to someday. Probably going to be 100 years from now, and but you don't even know it's there, and so we want to give you $1. Or $50, which would have been
really
a lot of money. So we just want the rights to it, and we'll just promise you that if we ever do get some of that rock, then we're not going to disturb your land, and we're not going to disturb you. And so they all signed off their properties called mineral rights. And now, if you travel to Appalachia, the whole region is just torn up like it's one big wound from, they started off with deep mining, which was really fine. At least it took some skill. But then they decided, oh, no, we're not getting coal fast enough. So they came in with huge, big machinery to just tear mountains completely to waste to get to the coal, and they kill the streams, and they kill everything and turn the region into just portions of it into just a nightmare. But and the people there are, and so the strange thing in The Rich Man and Me that I see is that the rich men don't come down and run the shovels. They don't do that. They hire the poor people that live there, give them, $10 an hour to go up and destroy their backyard. But the people have to do it because, everybody now, the way things have changed, everybody, quote unquote, needs a job. So it's just, that's a question I ponder. How in the world do poor people go do the bidding of the rich person, and stand up for it. So if you go down there, you see people that have these T-shirts on, coal countries. I was raised out in Oregon, okay, and that's where I am now. And in southwestern Oregon, when I moved there, when my family moved there, with just nothing but tall trees and fresh streams and beautiful, wonderful place. Well, then logging's going on, right? And I worked in the woods, and all my friends worked in the woods, and it was 5 days on death row and 2 on skid row, and and then you'd see these bumper stickers that say things like, "The only good tree is a stump." Because so it's the working man's mentality is, look, I'm working hard and I'm doing good, and that's all true. Okay, I'm not knocking the process, and I'm not saying it's not right to harvest natural resources. But the thing is, the rich people get rich off of it. They don't set a choker or risk their life on some sweaty mountain. But the poor people do the work, get paid as little as they can pay them to do it, tear up their own background, and somehow it's like, I don't know where I'm going with that, except for that it's a very perplexing thing as I look at it. And I think it's all related to, we want to feel good about ourselves. And as standard general people, regular people, feel good about themselves by they do good work, they do good things, and we want to believe that everything we do is good work and good things. And I guess it is.
But I think there's a hard balance. I mean, I'm listening to you as you talk about this, thinking, oh my goodness, these mountains, and then I'm thinking these trees, and I'm thinking natural resources, and we're losing it. And there might be kids saying, "Dad, why did you go participate in doing this? Because now we've lost this forest," and so forth. But there's a certain point, there's a balance where parents have to feed their children. People have to pay their bills. And I'm not saying that makes it okay, but I guess what I've learned in my X number of decades is, and I'm not here to say that I condone or say that someone should go become a prostitute, for example, but it seems to be a good example. Before I want to go judge somebody being a prostitute, it's like, what is that saying? Walk a mile in their moccasin? To say, I'd like to think that maybe there's another way. However, I'm not going to judge you on what you do to try to put food on the table. And I think that's something that we personally have to evaluate. Where does that fall on a right or wrong scale or in ethics? And for us to go judge other people and what they're doing doesn't seem quite right. Maybe taking that energy and going to say, how can I help you? How can I encourage you on another path if this isn't the path that you want to be on? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right on the bottom line that, we gotta feed the kids. And the way the world has changed, I don't do that anymore by going out to the garden and hoeing beans. I do that by, prostituting myself in one way or another. And I think, we're all prostitutes. We all sell our bodies for money, unless we're one of those fortunate few who are doing what we're doing because we want to do it. And the money is coming in, but that's not why we're doing it. We would do it anyway. That, I think, is the enviable position to be in. But most of us aren't like that. Most of us get up and hate to get up and go to a job we hate and can't wait until the quitting time's over so we can clock out and go home. It's just the way things are, right? So yeah, but judging others, no. And even, again, life's a school, Deb. So the question is, what is there to learn here? What can I learn from, because let's face it, what has happened has happened. And nothing's going to change that. Civilization has evolved the way it's evolved. Nothing's going to change it. Personally, I wish we would have stayed. I wish the Native Americans would have taken over us instead of we taking over them, I think their lifestyle, at least my romantic idea of their lifestyle, of living with the land and honoring the land and honoring the family and all of that, I think that's wonderful stuff. But it's not the way things haven't developed. It's crazy when you look at it's like as a whole. And again, I say the rich man because it's fueled, I think, by greed, and it's fueled by those who are really in power, and those who are in power tend to be the ones who have the money. And I don't think they're any different than you and I. It's just that amassing great quantities of wealth and power tend to have their carryover, I guess. And anyway, so it's almost as if we think that we can do whatever we want, and nature's just going to take it. But I've lived, I went to Kentucky because I had always felt like I wanted to go back there because I was born there, and then my parents left when I was in the first grade and moved me out to Oregon. So, but I went back as an adult, and I went back to, because I wanted to see my roots, and really most recently I went back and I taught school at a little, what were they called? I want to say foundation schools. That's not the word, but these little schools that when the country was settled, little schools that sprang up to teach the the Appalachian people. But anyway, so I taught at one of these little schools, and I lived by a creek that was a wonderful little creek. But what I come to find out as I went down there and checked things out and thought about going fishing in that is that the creek was dead. Mm. There's nothing living in it anymore because of the coal mining upstream, the strip mining that poisoned the water, and it was dead, and it was stinky, and it wasn't even something you would want to even wade in for disease. So it was once a beautiful area. Now it's been destroyed. Same thing in Oregon. I can think of creeks there and little communities there that, nowadays when they cut down the trees, they at least plant them back, but they also come back and spray for vegetation. So they're putting pesticides, chemicals on the land that's running down into the creeks, that's getting into the water supplies, that's affecting the people, and it's just not good. So our progress sometimes isn't progress, but it's where we are. Yeah, it's where we are. So where's the lesson, I wonder? And, and so here's a saying I have, and I like to think, what would happen if the whole world just stopped and listened? What would happen if we all just stopped our crazy running around and trying to fight each other and trying to grab what, just compete with one another and do all that? What if we all just stopped and just listened and looked around and said, hey, what in the world are we doing? What if we stopped and thought a minute? And, would we change? Would we look at reality, look at the world we've made for ourselves, and would we change? Because the one thing in life sometimes we don't have time for is that, stopping and looking. We can call it meditation, we can call it prayer, but it's a crucial thing that has slipped away. And Paul says, pray without ceasing. Do that without ceasing. Stop and look and realize.
I think there'd be people be hearing different things because some people would hear what they want to hear, and I think some would actually have to learn how to listen. First want to, but then learn.
Live and learn. Right.
I thought of you the other day. I was listening. I think I need to give credit to Steve Harrison. But I was listening to something. Guy Kawasaki. In fact, it was a couple different things. I saw a little video, and then some other clip, and I thought, isn't this the guy that you wrote about, Don? That you learned to. At first, you didn't. Can I say this publicly? You didn't want to like him, and then some things that you learned through the journey. Do I have that right?
Yeah, well, that's true. When I first started seeing a guy online, it was just, but it's a typical sort of thing. I see someone who is successful and who has a lot of people following what they say and who's doing well, and maybe I get a jealousy going on, or maybe I for some, and other people you just see, and for some reason my mind wants to make that decision. I like this person, I don't like this person. So with Guy, initially, I thought, the guy's he's just posts too much. He's always everywhere posting about everything, and I'm just sick of seeing his stuff. And I followed him for a bit, and then I just unfollowed him because it was just too much. But then as Guy's I got to know him a little more, and when he came out with a book, Ape, author, publisher, entrepreneur, about publishing your own books, and I got to know him a little bit more and did an interview with him, and seeing who he is and where he comes from, I really got to like him. and he's and so that's another thing. One thing I found out, a principle for me, typically the people who I really like a lot when I first meet them, usually down the road I don't like so much anymore. And the people who I really don't, then down the road I go, yeah. So I don't know how that works, but it's funny,
I hope you disliked me when you met me. So
No, really, I think there's a balance that goes on somewhere, Deb. Is just, they call it the monkey mind, kind of like let the monkey mind do its thing and just keep on going, because it's always trying to make those comparisons and evaluate where we stand in the, within the flock and all that. And it's just crazy stuff that gets in the way of having any real relationship.
So probably when we meet someone, because we don't have any basis for it, we're probably looking at saying, okay, who does that person remind me of? And if you're picking someone like out of the flock, like you said, that isn't necessarily your favorite person, when you think, oh, that's kind of like that person, that's where you're making that snap judgment.
Yeah, that can happen. And then too, it's a thing where, depends on if it's a guy meeting a guy, then they're going to have this competition thing going on. Where if it's a guy meeting a girl, then typically there's not going to be that competition. And that can get in the way, especially with, relationships between the same sex, is are we going to compete or not? And if we're opposite sex, we don't see each other as competition. But if we're same sex, that gets in the way all the time.
I was thinking, with females, it's the pattern politics. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love your outfit. And then it's like, oh, wait, is my outfit better looking than your outfit? Oh my, that could be a whole other hour just talking.
Yeah.
On that one. So you've been doing an awesome job building the community for MyBlogGuest on the G+. What's your secret?
I'm trying to learn how to facilitate community better. It's a topic that I first found out about from a film I saw in a business class, and I keep forgetting the guy's name. Is it Scott Peck? Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled and a few other things. And he got into community building and how all of that works. If you hear a lawnmower going on in the background, that's going on from here. I don't know. I can't stop it. He got into community building and did this really wonderful film that's so hard to find, but he went to an automobile dealership in Florida, and he worked with everyone from sales department, parts department, all that, brought the various people together and facilitated community to grow the business. And it's really an incredible film, an incredible journey that they go on. As you watch this film, they come together, and at first they're all just being nice to one another, and then they fight with one another, and then they come out the other end being a lot closer and being a lot better team. So, that's the thing I see, is community building is a fascinating topic. So really, I'm not building the community, but I am trying to facilitate it.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Maybe that's what people that are out there, they want to learn how to build a community. Maybe that's a clear distinction on how they view themselves and what their role is within the community.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Matter of fact, there's a Google community about Google communities.
Really?
So, people sharing best practices. And so that's the thing I try and do, is look around, see what's going on, what's working elsewhere, and try and bring some things in. So our membership has been growing, and I think I said earlier it's over 12. It's like 1135 right now or something like that. And that's encouraging to see. If you'll remember, when we first started the community and we were doing Twitter chats, and I would throw up a number randomly and people go, what's that number? And, so I'm going 59. And that was how many members we had in our G+ community. Do you recall that?
I do. I was wondering if people were like joining because of that. Like, oh, this is cool. I need to be a part of this.
So it was fun, but then it was. But now we're over 1,000, and that's quite a few, and it's just growing steadily. And I think it is going to grow steadily because MyBlogGuest is growing steadily, and some people want to participate. We just did the membership survey. And there's some interesting things in there. I'm not at liberty to say what they are yet because, Ann hasn't approved that, and I think she wants to go over it, and we want to talk about it in that. But, there was a question about, are you participating, and do you plan to participate? And it's pretty cool to see that, by and large, the MyBlogGuest community are people who do want to come together and get to know one another. Now, of course, here's the caveat is we're all busy. So how are you going to fit in? It's a matter of choosing where I spend my time. So I belong to, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 Google communities, but I can't spend much time in any of them. So you choose out what you can focus on. And for me, the MyBlogGuest community is a place where I want to, be active. And as people do that, then we can grow. And it's the same with myblogguest.com online. There are forums there to be active in and to make it a regular part of the day, or at least a regular part of the week, to get in and touch bases is a good thing if you're interested in guest blogging. And that's the way I start with this thing of where to invest my time, is I look at myself and go, okay, what are those issues that I'm passionate about, that I'm concerned about, that are part of who I am and what I do? So if you look at that, and I've looked at that and said, well, guest blogging is a part of it, then that means that I need to be active in the guest blogging community. There's no other way to that I know of to become a part of something than to participate.
Well, thank you again, and thanks to those who are viewing and listening to this interview. And if you're just tuning in, it will be on the profile page, so you're welcome to rewind and listen to the wisdom of Don. Thanks, Don.
Bye. Good to see you.
Bye.
Don't you wanna kiss and hug me? Come on strong, go on and love me. Cause I'd waste that big old moon. Wake up and smell the perfume. Just say, if you wanna be more than friends, got some love I'd like to make. Maybe you can squeeze me, I won't break.